session, we had members of parliament urging the new nominees who were approved in the morning sitting to join the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to ensure that there's proper regularization of salaries, and the fight between SRC and members of parliament is dealt with or does not occur moving forward. We had members highlighting the duties of the members of parliament and the reason as to why there should not be some sort of push and pull between the commission and a parliament. Remember, you can follow up on this live broadcast courtesy of our YouTube channels. That is Parliament of Kenya on YouTube, the National Assembly, as well as on KBC Channel 1. And you can follow up on this live broadcast courtesy of the Signet channel, that is Bunge TV, where the National Assembly has taken a small break from its long recess to come for this special sitting of the House to consider a number of issues, among them the consideration of the nominees who had been nominated by the president to serve in various public offices, among them the ambassadorial dockets, the UN, as well as the cabinet. We'll be having members of parliament delve into the recommendations by the committees and the findings of the vetting process to either support or agree with the committee or express a divergent opinion on various nominees who have been nominated to serve in the various dockets. If you're just joining us, you're watching the special sitting of the National Assembly on this 16th day of January, the year being 2025, on a day when the National Assembly has taken a break from its long recess, with the normal business of the National Assembly set to resume in February to come and deliberate on a number of issues highlighted in the request for this special sitting of the National Assembly. The Speaker of the National Assembly is already in the House. Allow me to hand you over for this live broadcast brought to you by PBU in partnership with KBC. Enjoy your viewing and have yourself a great afternoon.
Waheshimiwa, tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu ambaye kwa hekima na wema wako umeteua nyadhifa za viongozi na mabunge kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu, tukusihi utasame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao wameridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri yetu. Tukuomba uteremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa, na tujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako siendelezwe, na ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umesikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Honorable members, we have quorum to transact business. Clerk.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from from the chair.
Members at the bar, take the nearest seat. Honorable members, of a short communication to make on the 2025 mid-term retreat for members of the National Assembly. Honorable members, as you are aware, the National Assembly customarily organizes various fora aimed at providing opportunity for interaction, experience sharing, and capacity building for honorable members. Indeed, you recall that during the inception of the 13th Parliament, the National Assembly marshaled a number of engagements, including the 2022 induction retreat and the 2023 post-election seminar that was held in conjunction with the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. All members, it's against this backdrop and in keeping with the established practice that I wish to inform you that the National Assembly has planned a 3-day retreat for all members between the 27th and 31st January 2025 in Naivasha, Nakuru County. The objective of the retreat is to accord the leadership and members of the National Assembly an opportunity to, among other things, take stock of the progress made during the first, second, and third sessions and consider the expected key legislative matters. Honorable members, coming at the midterm of the current Parliament, the retreat will also provide an opportunity for the House to look ahead and plan for the fourth session and indeed for the remainder of the term. The retreat will be facilitated by experienced resource persons, including current and former members of Parliament, and will include panel discussions and interactive plenary sessions. At the end of the retreat, members will identify possible areas of the National Assembly's legislative processes that may require engineering to enhance efficiency. Honorable members, in this regard, I invite all of you to this very important event and implore all of you to make time to attend. I am aware the clerk has commenced logistical preparations for the activity, details of which will be communicated to you in due course. Thank you. Yes, Robert Mbui.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, today being a special sitting, because we are supposed to be on recess, I've just looked at the order paper that is in front of us, and Mr. Speaker, it does not conform to what the special sitting was supposed to be all about, because the afternoon session just shows appointment consideration for nominees to SRC, and then the two bills that we dealt with in the morning. So there must be a serious problem, Mr. Speaker.
Are you looking at the morning order
I'm
paper?
looking at the afternoon session, Mr.
The
Speaker,
supplementary
2:30
one?
p.m.
We have a supplementary order paper.
Oh, okay.
That conforms strictly
Okay.
with the call for a special sitting.
Oh, okay. So
And indeed, when we have a special sitting,
it's not in the system, Mr. Speaker.
it has not been uploaded.
Yeah. And Mr. Speaker, I also thought that there can be a supplementary order paper on a special sitting because it must be exactly what was in the Gazette notice.
It is absolutely in conformity, Honorable Robert Mbui, for the simple reason that you, as a member of the Appointments Committee, in the morning, the order paper had the laying of your report, right? And in the afternoon, the supplementary order paper has been prepared now to put a motion on that report. It is not going out of anything that we gazetted or was communicated to you. You remember yesterday we discouraged one of your colleagues from raising questions today about some health issues because it was not part of what we gazetted. I hope it's clear, Robert. You're a fast learner. He's not. Go on, next.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. And order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, January 16, 2025, afternoon sitting. One, list of nominees to 62 National Government Constituency Development Fund committees submitted by the National Government Constituency Development Fund Board. Aina Moi, Baringo Central. Honorable Speaker, allow me to read without reading the numbers. One is Aina Moi, Baringo Central, Baringo South, Belgut, Bobasi, Central Imenti, Cherangani, Dagoretti North, Eldas, Gatanga, Gatundu North, Githunguri, Kajiado East, Kajiado North, Kangema, Kangundo, Kapenguria, Kapseret, Kasarani, Kathiani, Keio South, Huisero, Kikuyu, of course, Kinangop, Kipkelion West, Kirinyaga Central, Kitui Central, Kitutu Masaba, Kwanza, Lafey, Laikipia East, Laikipia North, Likoni, Luanda, Lurambi, Mara, Mandera West, Matungulu, Moiben, Mount Elgon, Mumias East, Mumias West, Mukurweini, Mwea, Naivasha, Nakuru Town West, Narok South, Oljororok, Odhaya, Saboti, Shinyalu, Sirisia, Suna East, Tarbaj, Tigania West, Suna East, of course, Tarbaj, Tigania West, Thika Town, Turkana North, Turkana South, Ugunja, Wajir West, Webuye East, and West Mugirango. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, 16th January 2025. A joint report of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs and the Senate Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights on consideration of the National Dialogue Committee, NADCO, and the report of the Multi-Sectoral Working Group on the realization of the 2/3 gender rule. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements. Order number 8, motion, report of the Committee of the Whole House on the Startup Bill, Senate Bill number 4 of 2022, question to be put.
Orders. Murugara, take your seat. Order, Honorable Murugara, take your seat. And the member talking to the Majority Leader, go ahead and take your seat. I couldn't recognize you from your backside. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 8, which is that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the Startup Bill, Senate Bill number 14 of 2022, subject to recommittal of clause 9. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, report of the Committee of the Whole House on the Persons with Disabilities Bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2023, question to be put and third reading.
Chairman Keopa, take the nearest seat. She told me she prefers to be called chairman. Honorable members, I'll now put the question at order number 9, which is that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the Persons with Disabilities Bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2023. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover, Deputy Speaker, Leader of Majority.
Leader of Majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Persons with Disabilities Bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2023, be now read a third time. I also request Honorable Zamzam, the member for Mombasa County, to second.
Honorable Speaker, I second.
Thank you. Dr. Nyikal, take the nearest seat. Honorable members, I now propose the question, which is that the Persons with Disabilities Bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2023, be now read a third time. You put the question. I'm satisfied that there's quorum in the House. I now put the question, which is that the Persons with Disabilities Bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2023, be now read a third time. As many as of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
A bill for an act of parliament
Sorry, yes.
to give effect to Article 54 of the Constitution, to restructure the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, and to provide for its functions and powers, to provide for the institutional framework for protecting, promoting, and monitoring the rights of persons with disabilities, and to provide for incentives and reliefs, and for connected purposes.
Thank you. Next.
Order number 10, special motion, consideration of nominees for appointment to various diplomatic offices.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence, and Foreign Relations.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that taking into considerations the finding of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence, and Foreign Relations in report of the approval hearings of the 4 persons nominated for appointment to the offices of High Commissioner, Ambassador, Permanent Representative, and Consul General laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 16 January 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 132(2) of the Constitution, Section 22 of the Foreign Service Act, Cap 185E, and Section 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, Cap 7, this House approves the appointment of Dr. Andrew Karanja as Ambassador Brasilia, Brazil, Honorable Babu Namwamba, EGH, as a permanent representative, United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, and also United Nations Office at Nairobi, that is UNON, and Mr. Gabo Nu, CBS, as a Consul General, Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Honorable Speaker, I will not be going into a lot of the notes that I have with me here, but I just want to go directly to the nominees. And I'll start with that of Mr. Dr. Andrew Karanja. All the nominees, in terms of their suitability and the requirements that they needed to have met before this approval, Honorable Speaker, I want to mention that they all qualified. And in terms of Dr. Andrew Karanja, Dr. Andrew Karanja is seasoned, a scholar, an economist, actually an agricultural economist. And in ascertaining his suitability, the committee wanted to find, first of all, what he will do, because he has no diplomatic training. And he said that he's worked before with the World Bank, his experience in the World Bank, and particularly where, as a country, we are headed into the side of trying to market our country, particularly products like coffee, beyond Kenya. and Brazil hosts other 7 missions. He did indicate, Honorable Speaker, that he will use the experience and leverage on his expertise in the agricultural sector to make sure that we as a country are able to export our beef and still use the experience that he will gather from Brazil to expand our agricultural market, particularly that of beef, of which Brazil is very experienced in. We also asked him as a committee his short stint in the Ministry of Agriculture, and admittedly, he agreed that he had been very poor in terms of communication, but with very many experience, he had thought that he didn't need to speak much. All he needed to do was to work. But apparently that doesn't work here, and the communication, he implied that he was going to improve his communication skills, and admitted that that was probably what exited him in the Ministry of Agriculture. The second one is Honorable Babu Namwamba. Honorable Babu Namwamba is not new to this house. Honorable Babu Namwamba has worked in so many disciplines and spheres of our country. And the latest one was being a cabinet secretary in charge of sports, where he implored upon the committee that he had worked so hard in the Ministry of Sports, and the CHAN that everyone is, Kenya will be hosting, that everyone is speaking about, was largely his contribution, and even in the house here, a distinguished academician on what we submitted before the committee. And he has worked before as CAS in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Babu Namwamba will not be new to diplomacy. In fact, he went ahead to tell the committee that he will try to profile the United Nations and UNEP office, which is, and UNON, which are hosted in Nairobi. But somehow many people still do not appreciate the fact that we host one of the biggest United Nations units in Kenya, and that is going to have it take a bit more space for people to appreciate that we host such a huge UN body in the country. We assessed its suitability, and beyond doubt, and Babu Namwamba demonstrates very clear knowledge of diplomacy and international relations, and it was very easy to engage with him, having been colleagues before. And personally, I want to say that as a team, we were extremely impressed by the performance of Honorable Babu Namwamba during this particular interview. And finally, Honorable Speaker, is Mr. Nou Gabo. Mr. Nou Gabo is a career civil servant who has sharpened his teeth in the field of security, worked in different areas in our security infrastructure, particularly in Kenya Police, having rose from the ranks of a cadet officer all the way to the Deputy Inspector General of our Kenya Police. He is sharp and worked in missions, several missions, particularly in Sierra Leone and Liberia. Mr. Gabo demonstrated extreme knowledge, particularly in area that has been posted to, nominated for rather, and that is Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Many will recall, Honorable Speaker, that when I came before this House to request if we could send our officers, and particularly many times when I appear on our media spaces, most of what I vocalize is what I get from people like Mr. Gabo. He's very experienced in terms of peacekeeping. He truly understands his role as a security officer. And I remember a case in mind where one of the members asked him his role in the bombers of Kenya during the national tallying. If you remember, there was a bit of fracas there in National Tallying Center. And Mr. Gabo owned up to some of the mistakes that happened at that time, and it was not their making, because many of the people who actually created mayhem. Like he says, were accredited to be in that station. And he's saying that such experience prepares them even better as a police force to work in the future. I'll go to the case of one Madam Nyambura, which I probably don't have in my notes, but you'll remember that there was a decline by one of the nominees posted to Ghana. And this poses very serious questions, Honorable Speaker. And you remember my committee expressed its frustration, particularly where it seems that individuals who've been posted to stations are either not aware or disinterested, yet somehow their names find their space in the postings. Honorable Speaker, as a House, my committee is totally getting frustrated, particularly where we feel that as a country we could be creating an unnecessary diplomatic tiff with countries that have enjoyed relatively very good relationship. Ghana has been jinxed, Honorable Speaker. This is the second time that a nominee is declining to be posted to Ghana. And my committee, we did express our frustration, and we want to call, and I want to use this, particular point now to Honorable Speaker to even seek guidance from you, Mr. Speaker, that I know most of these appointees are appointed by the President, but it is consultation. And that consultation normally happens between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the head of public service. And my committee did put on notice these officers that in future we should not waste space and time giving people appointments that they probably do not even require. I, Honorable Speaker, we sit with so many diplomats, trained diplomats from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They are expressing their frustration. It spits on their face when there are nominees who do not even wish to go to stations, and there are officers who stagnated in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs because that is the apex of diplomacy, being called an ambassador and being posted to a station. Yet so many of them are still working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, looking for an opportunity to serve our country very diligently outside. Those opportunities are not given to them. And I want to implore upon the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the head of public service that in future, they should not waste the committee's time. They need to be extremely diligent on individuals that are being posted on missions, because those are the eyes and the ears of the president, and such embarrassments in future where officers who have been posted are declining because they merely might not have been consulted should cease. These are opportunities that so many Kenyans are yearning for, and it is imperative on those officers to make sure that they do their due diligence so that officers who get their space and names on the table of a vetting committee must have been consulted, must be ready to serve the country in those capacities, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I promise that I'll keep it short, so I will not bore the House with so many other stories. And so therefore, Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends that this House approves the appointment of Dr. Andrew Karanja as Ambassador of Brasilia, Brazil, Honorable Babu Namwamba, EGH, as a Permanent Representative, United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, United Nations Office, UNON, and Mr. Gabo Noor as a CBS, as a Consul General, Port-au-Prince, Haiti. My committee further went, and I do not want to read it because I've said that the Chief of Staff and the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs and the Head of Public Service to enhance the rigor of due diligence process and ensure nominees are consulted and concur and are ready to serve the country to avoid incidences of nominees turning down the nomination. Honorable Speaker, at this point, then I beg to move and urge the House to adopt this committee. I therefore request Honorable Major Retired Sheikh Abdullahi Bashir, my chairperson, to second the motion. Thank you.
Major Bashir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wish to second the motion that this House approves the appointment of the 3 nominees out of the 4 persons nominated for appointment as High Commissioners, Ambassador, Permanent Representative, and Consul General. Honorable Speaker, the office of the High Commissioner, Ambassador, Permanent Representative, or Consul General is an office under the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. The duties of these various offices is pursuant to Section 21 of the Foreign Service Act, Cap 185E, and I'm sure we are all conversant with the roles. Honorable Speaker, during the approval hearings, the committee paid due regard to the procedure used to arrive at the nominees. We looked at any constitutional or statutory requirements relating to the offices and the suitability of the nominees for appointment proposed, having regard to whether the nominees' abilities, experience, and qualities meet the needs of the country's foreign service. Honorable Speaker, upon the conclusion of the approval hearings, we scrutinized the personal, academic, and career background of the nominees, and we were fully convinced that the 3 nominees who presented their academic and professional credentials and made oral submissions during the approval hearings demonstrated their stability for appointment in accordance with the provisions of Section 6(7) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approvals Act, Cap 7F. Honorable Speaker, if I look at just 2 of the nominees, and I will just take an example of Honorable Ababu Namwamba, who is the nominee for Permanent Representative to the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, and Union. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Ababu Namwamba is well grounded on matters international law. First and foremost, he has a Master of Laws in International Studies, in addition to a Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of Nairobi. He also served as the Chief Administrative Secretary, CAS, in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from 2018 to 2022, where he gained hands-on experience in international diplomacy and represented Kenya in key global forums, and therefore is able to serve well in this new role as the ambassador. Honorable Namwamba also previously served as a member of parliament, and I'm sure he has gained more in terms of parliamentary diplomacy. Another nominee, Honorable Speaker, is Mr. Noor Gabo, CBS, the nominee for Consul General to Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Honorable Speaker, Mr. Noor Gabo holds a Master's of Governance, Peace and Security, as well as a Bachelor of Arts in Criminology. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Gabo, Mr. Noor Gabo, is being sent to Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and with experience spanning 36 years of service in the public sector, I am sure he will be able to contribute more effectively on the matters of peace and security. The mission in Haiti, as it is mainly a mission of peace and security diplomacy. Remember, we have our police force there. We are the lead mission on the ground, and therefore sending somebody like Noor Gabo to this mission to be the Consul General will add a good impetus and improve on the performance of our police force on the ground. Haiti is an example whereby there's been chaos. Gangs have taken up everywhere, the ports, the roads, the airports, and so forth. But with the presence of our police force and with the support of the United Nations and the international community, and I'm sure that his presence as a Consul General will be able to add a lot of support to the mission. Honorable Gabo has served in the police service to the rank of Deputy Inspector General of Police. He has served for 36 years in total. And his main focus or expertise is peace and security. Remember, peace and security is a key aspect on matters diplomacy, because we have the peace and security diplomacy as a tool, and we will therefore be able to add a lot of impetus, a lot of support, a lot of experience, that has gained over the years to the mission in Haiti. Honorable Speaker, Haiti as it is a place whereby we are taking the lead role, just like we did in South Sudan. Remember, we took the lead in South Sudan, and after the country has stabilized, we have had many opportunities for Kenyans in South Sudan. And therefore, for us to open a mission in Haiti and sending a consul general will ensure that in the near future, when the country will be peaceful, then we will see a situation whereby we will get the opportunities in that country, because we were the first country to take our police force there. We're now sending a seasoned security expert, now a diplomat, to the same area, and therefore we'll be able to react as a country in terms of taking our produce, taking our human resource to Haiti, and it's very, very critical. Honorable Speaker, as the chairman has alluded to, we have had a nominee, and this is the second time that a nominee that has been nominated to the position of Ghana has declined the posting. And that shows that at least what we have learned from this is that there was no due diligence that has been carried out by the officers concerned. And now we call upon the respective officers that are concerned, especially the Office of the Head of Public Service, to ensure that he carries the due diligence to persons nominated to these positions. The very least they can do is to contact them, call them, and ask whether they are ready or prepared to serve this kind of missions. And it's very, very critical so that we don't get an embarrassing situation whereby someone declines at the 11th hour. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude on the matters of coming back to peace and security, on matters of Haiti, I want to take this opportunity equally, because we are in the global stage, we're in the global arena, and we are talking about Haiti, which is a security situation. Last night, because we are part of the world, Gaza has had a ceasefire, an agreement between Hamas and Israel. I want to take this opportunity to thank the state of Qatar and its prime minister and the allies for concluding a ceasefire to ensure that the people of Gaza and the Palestinians can live in peace now and forever. And we wish them all the best, and may peace prevail. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, I wish to assure the House and the country that we have the right individuals to steer our foreign policy in the respective stations. We therefore recommend that the National Assembly approves the appointment of the 3 persons to serve as ambassador, permanent representative, and consul general in the respective stations. Honorable Speaker, I second the motion and urge the House to adopt the report. I thank you.
Members on their feet, take your seats. Ruku, take the nearest seat. Honorable members, I now propose the question at order number 10, which is that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations in its report on the vetting of the nominees for appointments as ambassador, permanent representative, and consul general, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 16th January 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 132(2)(e) of the Constitution, Section 22 of the Foreign Services Act, Cap 185(e), and Section 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, Cap 7F, this House approves the appointment of the following persons as indicated. Dr. Andrew Karanja, Ambassador, Brasilia, Brazil. Honorable Babu Namwamba, EGH, Permanent Representative of Kenya to the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, and United Nations Office at Nairobi, UNON, and Mr. Noor Yaro Gabo, CBS, as Consul General, Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Yes, Junet.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, this is a very important issue. And that's the reason why we have nowadays ambassadors getting approved through the House. Before, it never used to be there. It used to be the president appoints and they go to work. So we must have our views, because all of us are not members of the Foreign and Defense Relations Committee. We were waiting for the committee to present their report here so that we can give our views and opinions on it, Mr. Speaker. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I stand to support this motion, but with a very heavy heart. Mr. Speaker, as a former foreign minister, and you know that area very well, and you're a diplomat, Mr. Speaker, the Foreign Service is not a dumping site. If you have served as a cabinet secretary and you have been dismissed due to incompetence, due to negligence, due to in all kind of manner of accusations, and then you are appointed as an ambassador, Mr. Speaker, what is this knowledge that you could not use to run a ministry, that you are going to run a department, you are going to run a foreign embassy, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, once you have been dismissed summarily, the way some of these characters I'm seeing on this paper, on this motion have been dismissed, they should go and look for other things to do. You can do farming, you can do other engagements in the country. It's not compulsory for you to be given a job, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let us emulate other developed democracies, where if somebody is relieved of his duty, he has other things to do. You need to have other professions. If you have a doctor, go and treat people. If you're a lawyer, go and do your other work.
Yes, Honorable Jeanette, there is a point of order from member for Kinango. Yes, Kwenya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is sad that the leader of minority is misleading this house. The cabinet secretary, the former cabinet secretary is speaking about or talking about, was not actually fired because of incompetence, because the president did not state any reason, and it is unfair for the leader of minority to continue misleading this house that indeed the person who he is purporting to have been fired was fired for incompetence. In fact, he stated in the interview that he would serve in any capacity. I do not have, actually, he has insinuated. His insinuation is enough for us to know who he is talking about.
Two of these nominees, Kwenya, are former cabinet ministers. So which one are you defending?
Mr. Speaker.
Both number one and number two.
Yes, both number one and two.
Mr.
Speaker, none was fired because of incompetence, and we took them through a rigorous process where we were vetting them, and they are equal to the task. And indeed, they said that they can be assigned any role by the president.
Honorable Kwenya, to the extent that the appointing and firing authority gave no reasons, it is left to anybody's conjecture. So Junet is not out of order. But Honorable Junet, take your seat. Honorable members, today is a special sitting, and we have 3 motions to deal with. At order number 10, order number 11, order number 12. Before we go to 13 and 14, I want to propose to you to agree that orders number 10, 11, and 12 were assigned them an average of an hour each. If you want to truncate the time, so much the better. I will watch the trend of contributions. If it's repetitive and tautologous, I will invite the mover to reply. If there are different views, I'll be happy to hear them. So Junet, go on. Is that agreed by the House? Yeah, go on, Junet. Yes, Kainan? Pardon? You will contribute if you catch the speaker's eye. Go on.
Mr. Speaker, I am happy that you protected me from the wrath of Honorable Kwenya, because maybe one of the nominees is from his village who has been dismissed, Mr. Speaker, and now who's seeking a job through ambassadorial appointment. But Mr. Speaker, I think the House should look into this matter in the next appointment. Mr. Speaker, Why should you be appointed, if you are a cabinet secretary and you are reassigned to become an ambassador, then that's fine. It's a matter of fact that you've been relieved of your duties. Especially, I'm sure the one Kwenya is alluding to is a cabinet secretary who served for barely 3 months. Why should you be relieved of your duties of barely 3 months if it's not out of incompetence? What else can it be? If it's on health ground, then you should not go to another job. You should go back and stay at home. Mr. Speaker, why am I saying so? Because I want competent Kenyans who are career diplomats to get space so they can serve this country at the level of the apex of ambassadorial work, Mr. Speaker, which is an ambassador, as has been said by the chairman of the committee himself, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, foreign service is a calling. It's a very important job, Mr. Speaker. It's not a job that can be done by anyone, Mr. Speaker. It is a job that requires certain skills, Mr. Speaker. And you have nurtured many people when you are the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Speaker. One of the things I admire about the Speaker is his diplomatic credentials, Mr. Speaker. I'm being honest. Because we have fought here many times, and you tell me even in our mother tongue, it's dodgy, it's dodgy, it's dodgy. Calm down, man, calm down. Mr. Speaker, it's dodgy, quote in quote. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a job that requires special skills. What skills is that you could not run a ministry that now you have acquired within the last 2 weeks so that you can go and deal with it in those foreign embassies, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this process must be taken seriously. Secondly, and most importantly, when somebody is being given a job of ambassador, please, I'm asking the executive, they should do a due diligence. You cannot give somebody a job, and when he's told to appear before the committee is when she says, no, I'm not interested in this job. There are many Kenyans who want that job, surely. Why should you be guessing whether this person wants the job or not? A former cabinet secretary was proposed to Parliament for vetting as an ambassador for which country? Ghana, Mr. Speaker. This is the second time people are declining to go to Ghana. Initially, a former member of Parliament declined. Now the former cabinet secretary again declined. Why should we be begging people with jobs when there are many Kenyans who are jobless, who have the requisite qualification to go and serve this country in Ghana? And you know, in Ghana, that is where the headquarters now of the African Free Trade offices are. We need a very important person there, not jokers who don't want jobs, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, if under this, maybe this now, you know, we are the ones now who are sending experts to government. So if there are no experts on this other side, let them tell us, we shall give them experts to go to Ghana, Mr. Speaker, under the broad-based arrangement, Mr. Speaker. We have experts who can go and work in Ghana. If you give me 10 minutes now, I'll produce one under this exchange program of experts. It's an exchange program under broad-based.
Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, just on a point of information for Honorable Junette, I think it's important for you to find out first what the challenges were for Honorable Margaret Nyambura not to be able to take up the position. I think she did confirm that she had certain family challenges that prevented her from being able to leave the country and preferred to have a job within the country. So I think you need to find out what were the issues before you castigate her or castigate the station. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, yes. I think the Deputy Speaker did not hear me well. Mr. Speaker, these jobs when you are being offered, even you now, if you are to send me to a mission on behalf of Parliament to London, first you'll ask me, are you available from this date to that date? Before you bring somebody's name to Parliament. Parliament is a serious place. Before you send a name to National Assembly for approval and vetting, you must ask that individual whether he or she are interested in that job. At that level there, not when she comes here, or the name is brought here, I tell you, oh, you see, I want to do farming. I have a big farm in Migori. I want to do sugarcane. That is afterthought. Before you give me an opportunity to serve, ask me whether I'm interested in this job. Because it's not the first time. It's not the second time. I don't want it to happen again, Mr. Speaker. I want this time Kenyans who are sure, Kenyans who are willing to serve the country to be given an opportunity. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion because some of the members also whom I see there can do, let's give them a second chance now. Let's give them a second chance. we see how they perform. Because the first chance failed, Mr. Speaker. Now let us see, let's give them a second chance. We see how they perform, how they do, how they will serve the country. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I support.
Martha Wangari.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also agree with Honorable Junet that we give them a second chance, because sometimes you'll have a member who will be here, not do very well as an MP, but when become a senator or a governor, they do exemplary job. And because they had not been dismissed on grounds of being ineffective or having done any issue that was against the Constitution, that we give them the chance and allow the appointing authority to do as he wishes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I sat in this vetting process, and it has come at the right time when we are reviewing our foreign policy as a country to be able to align to the shifting global dynamics, Mr. Speaker, and to be able to align to our national interests, Mr. Speaker. And that is why these appointments are very, very crucial. Mr. Speaker, the issue of Dr. Karanja, a very, very well-published and renowned academic, Mr. Speaker, has a very wide experience, Mr. Speaker, and it has also come at the right time when we are expecting to hold the Conference of Parties, or what you call COP30, in Belém, Brazil, this year in November, Mr. Speaker. So we are hoping that he will be able to help us also navigate as we send our team to be able to negotiate and make progress for our country. Mr. Speaker, the other thing we were able to raise to Dr. Karanja is specifically of the missions or ambassadorial missions becoming the first stop of our Kenyans who are outside the country, especially students, when they are stranded, when we have issues in other countries. These ambassadors must be reachable, must be accessible, and must be responsive to our citizens outside the country, Mr. Speaker. These ambassadors, permanent rep, and consul generals, Mr. Speaker, are the image that we are projecting of the country and of the president in the outside world. Mr. Speaker, I also agree with the previous speakers in terms of at the time when we get a person declining an appointment, Mr. Speaker, it definitely sends a very bad picture to have Accra becoming rejected twice, Mr. Speaker. So it is important that, as has been said by the mover, that the head of public service does proper consultation with the appointing authority to ensure that if someone is not ready to take up an appointment, you reject it at the right time. Let it not go to the Gazette notice, because when it goes to the Gazette notice, even if you write to the clerk, it will already have gone out, Mr. Speaker. So the timing is very critical that we have it checked. Mr. Speaker, the issue of linking the country with our country is very important. It has become a global village. We hope that these three appointees will do a good job. I want to also pick up on Honorable Ababu Namwamba, a person who has served in this house for 10 years, has been a cast, Mr. Speaker, and we were able to interrogate in terms of his knowledge, in terms of representing us in the UNEP and UNON. And one issue, Mr. Speaker, that I personally feel about UNEP and UNON is that despite being hosted in this country, if you go to Switzerland, if you go to New York, you will see the linkage between the national and domestic interests with the offices of the UN that are located in those areas, Mr. Speaker. I feel like Gigiri in UNEP and UNON, they feel detached from what we are doing as a country. So I would hope, as he promised, that he will be able to act as a bridge between getting the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, the national interests of this country linked into these offices, Mr. Speaker. Let Kenyans also feel them as part of the global world. Mr. Speaker, the issue of Haiti is very critical. The person who has been nominated there, who is Gabo, Mr. Speaker, has been in the police for over 30 years, ended up as the DIG, has been in the policy implementation at that level, Mr. Speaker. And the one question we hope and we actually put up to him is that as we already sent our first contingent of police officers to help restore peace in Haiti, we will be looking that he'll be the go-between for those officers, because first of all, for obvious reasons, the officers are not unionized, Mr. Speaker. It would be very unfair or unfortunate for our issues, especially of welfare of those officers, to go to the media. We see them on BBC, we see them in other areas complaining that their welfare is not being taken care of, Mr. Speaker. So we'll be hoping that when Gabo reports, if appointed and if passed in this House, Mr. Speaker, he will be able to do a good job to ensure that he's the go-between between these officers and, of course, other Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, who are in that area, who would actually be threatened by any issue or who would be having an issue of welfare. They would wish to communicate so that they're able to sort it out in-house before it gets out, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that being said, I hope that we can also, as a country, be able to develop a foreign policy, as it is being done now but through the ministry, that is based on fundamental principles of peaceful coexistence, so that we can be able to preserve our national security and also have peaceful coexistence in the global world and where we sit. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Ole Sunguli.
Mr. Speaker, I also stand to support these appointments. Being appointed to be ambassador, as you did appoint me when to go to China, is one of the biggest, one of the most important jobs that you can get as a country. Actually, it's the only time you can be called Your Excellency without being elected. And that shows you the importance that is attached to this particular office. Mr. Speaker, I concur with the committee, except when I listen to the chairman of the committee describing, for instance, Dr. Andrew Karanja, and I listened to our friend Mother from Gilgil saying that he's well-educated. But the chairman says that we appointed him, notwithstanding the fact that he cannot communicate very well. Now, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, of course, the duty of an ambassador is to communicate, to speak for the country. I find one thing that is being omitted all the time, that ambassadors are being vetted or appointed. It does not happen in Western countries, that you are appointed to a Portuguese-speaking country and you can't speak Portuguese. You are appointed to a French-speaking country and you can't speak French. Now, if Dr. Garanja does not communicate well in English, what do you think about him communicating well in Portuguese? I think we're like Honorable Juliet is saying.
Order, Julius. There's a point of order from Wangari.
Mr. Speaker, I don't remember anyone saying that Dr. Karanja cannot communicate effectively in English, because he's actually a graduate of a PhD holder, Mr. Speaker, and was very fluent and very well conversed with the English language. The only issue we had was the issue of speaking in Portuguese, and we've had others who have gone, including yourself, without speaking the local language.
Yes, Junet.
Mr. Speaker, of course.
Hold on, Sunguli. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I want to also say that having a PhD does not mean that you know English. You can be having a PhD and you don't know English, because you saw the other day in Eldoret, there was a university that gave honorary degrees of PhDs and people were in goals. How do you know those people speak English? How can you confirm that those members speak English? Man, it's not.
Order, members. Honorable Sunguli, I appointed you to China without you knowing any Chinese language.
So, Mr. Speaker, that is why, with the benefit of the hindsight, I'm able to advise that it becomes a problem. But I took an immediate measure and learned Chinese. Yes. And Mr. Speaker, you can also attest that when you came to China, I was able to translate some Chinese to you. Yes, I'm just saying that in future, as we draft this policy, let us take that into consideration so that we can appoint people who are fit for purpose. And when I talk about lack of communication, I was referring to the speech of the chairman of the committee, that Dr. Karanja said that he's going to improve his communication skills once he gets back to Brazil. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I also want to commend His Excellency the President for appointing Mr. Nur Gabo to be Consul General.
Yes, Bashir, what's the point of order?
Motion, sir.
Sungule,
Honorable Speaker, I want
order.
to.
Sungule, do you want to be informed?
You know,
Yeah, I want to.
Yes, you can let him inform.
Go ahead.
Honorable Speaker, and I just want to inform Honorable Sukili and the House that the point where our chairman said that the nominee said he's going to improve on his communication skills was not particular on the speech, but it was, we asked him a question on why, when he was the Minister for Agriculture, that he kept quiet when so many things were happening, including the issue of vaccination. And he said there was a lapse and that in future he's going to improve on his communication skills to the public and the people he serves. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why I said he was appointed in spite of that fact. But Mr. Speaker, I was at the point of saying that I wish to thank His Excellency the President for appointing Mr. Nur Gabo to be Consul General to the Port-au-Prince in Haiti. That, like Brazil is the only place where we have our embassy in South America. And I hope that this position that Mr. Nur Gabo has been appointed to becomes a position where he's ambassador to the Caribbean, rather than just a consul general to Haiti. But it is a testament, Mr. Speaker, of the fact that the mission in Haiti is actually now getting some fruits. Contrary to what we had predicted here in this house, it seems like the brave sons of Kenya are at long last making a difference in Haiti. And I hope that Mr. Gabo will, if his presence in Haiti, in presence in the Port-au-Prince, will in fact now enhance our responsibilities in that place. And it is very important that we eventually take this office away from Haiti to in fact Kingston itself, so that the rest of the Caribbean can come under the loop of Kenya, because we need the Caribbean countries when it comes to our diplomacy. We have our foot in South America. We need to extend that to Santiago in Chile. We have our foot now in Port-au-Prince. We need to extend that again to the rest of the Caribbean. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that the ambassadors in our abroad ought to be looked after very well. I don't know the position currently, but when I last visited one country, it looked like the salaries were delaying, some of the allowances were delayed, and it is very embarrassing if the embassy abroad does not get its payments due on time. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Thank you. Mutunga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the adoption of the committee report on the appointments. Honorable Speaker, I have worked with, and I know Dr. Karanja very well. Honorable Speaker, Dr. Karanja worked and retired from the World Bank. And the World Bank is not any mean hirer. The World Bank hires the best. So it's about the best brains that we have in this country. Honorable Speaker, we have had issues in the ministry. And probably the question may have tilted this response.
Yes, Kainan, what's the problem? There, I see an officer in mechanical gear trying to fix. In the event I give you a chance to speak and it's not working, you'll get a portable mic. Go on, Mutunga.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, I'm saying that we've had a few issues in the sector, especially the issue on vaccination, which needed to be properly delivered to the Kenyans. It could have been anybody here and any basic speaker in this house or in this country. But Honorable Speaker, those are issues that are technical in nature and require the competent authority to respond. And the competent authority on this matter is the Director of Veterinary Services. So maybe we should be asking ourselves the extent to which the Director of Veterinary Services came out and gave out the issues, responded to the issues of vaccination. Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank the President for realizing it necessary to put Dr. Karanja specifically in Brazil. Honorable Speaker, Brazil is the hub of agriculture in the Southern American region, and it influences the entire world in terms of the agricultural products because they sell a lot to most parts of the world. In fact, they access more markets than we possibly could. They are much more advanced in research, in research on various types of products, and we can gain a lot in terms of opening up doors for Kenyans and opening up doors for technology transfer from Brazil to Kenya. So having an agricultural background and being in a place where you'll be able to identify what is good and useful for us, I believe Dr. Karanja will really will do a good job to help Kenyans out. Honourable Speaker, I want to very briefly speak about the appointment of the Consul General, Mr. Noah Yero Gubao. Honourable Speaker, I remember very well in this house, we had a heated debate on why should we send Kenyans to die in Haiti. Up to now, Honourable Speaker, I have not been able to find any situation where a Kenyan has died in Haiti. In any case, Kenyans are being commended for the good work that they are doing. And this is an outgrowth of that particular opening or that particular relationship that we created with Haiti. So, Honourable Speaker, I would like to appeal to our colleagues that sometimes we need to be objective in whatever we say so that we may also open up doors and avenues for Kenyans. Those Kenyans who are in Haiti are Kenyans who are earning a living, maybe even an extra coin out of such engagement, which are of international nature. Honourable Speaker, very briefly about our UNEP appointment. Honourable Speaker, this UNEP appointment is in Nairobi. United Nations Environmental Program is based here in Nairobi, and we believe and strongly believe that the appointment of Ababu Namwamba, Honorable, is going to help us to especially dig into the environmental issues in this country and relate what we are doing in terms of policies, in terms of legal and the regulatory instruments of this country with what is happening at the UN. It will help us also to improve our sitting or our statement that we make at the international negotiation tables. And I believe that he will also take time to identify what other countries do so they are so impactful when it comes to the outcomes of negotiations. In most of the cases, Honourable Speaker, we do not take the right people to the negotiating table. Sometimes we pick institutions, and these institutions may not have the correct personnel to go to the negotiations. And I would like to appeal to the Honourable Ababu Namwamba, once he takes this particular position, to look at the issue of negotiations, at the determinations of what are our proposals to the various issues that are under the table when it comes to the United Nations Framework Conventions on climate change, especially, and when the conference of parties are meeting. Honourable Speaker, with those few remarks, I support the adoption of this report.
Kainan. There's one behind you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this very important report. Mr. Speaker, diplomacy, by definition, is the art, science, and other means states use to interact with other nations to safeguard their national interest. Mr. Speaker, that being the case, in the modern day diplomacy, Mr. Speaker, was born out of the Vienna Convention of 1961, which also provided the basis for diplomatic engagement as to promote, to project, and to protect the interests of that particular country. Mr. Speaker, I'm aware that it was during your time as the Minister for Foreign Affairs, and later on when Amina took over, that for the first time, we have adopted a written foreign policy, which provides 5 pillars as the basis for our diplomatic engagement. Mr. Speaker, number 1 is peace diplomacy. 2 is economic diplomacy. 3 is diaspora diplomacy. 4 is environmental diplomacy. And 5 is cultural diplomacy. Mr. Speaker, this being the basis of our foreign diplomatic pillars, then what is it that an individual is supposed to have? This particular field is a specialized field. Mr. Speaker, I know individuals have alluded to this. When you are appointed, the first thing is you are expected to be the interface between Kenya and the country that you have been assigned to represent Kenya. There are basic things that, other than the educational qualifications, there are basic things that sometimes we fail to appreciate. Mr. Speaker, in the past, before the collapse before the end of the Soviet Union, Mr. Speaker, diplomats used to be appointed purely on ideological persuasions. But today things have changed. Things have changed because first thing in our engagement is economic diplomacy. Mr. Speaker, as much as these three individuals are qualified, and I do know their first objective will be to pursue track one diplomacy, meaning state-to-state relations. But there are other things that they're also expected to do through track two diplomacy, which is non-state actors' role in our diplomatic engagement, in particular the UN. The Honorable Ababu Namwamba, as a former minister, as a former parliamentarian, I must say, is one of the most qualified individuals to represent Kenya, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, being appointed or being assigned to represent Kenya at the UN Habitat, Mr. Speaker, this entity is the only one of its kind south of Sahara. But the role has been completely dispersed. The functions of this entity called UNEP that is supposed to be here has been dispersed to Spain, Portugal, and other countries. Mr. Speaker, recently, some few months ago, Kenya was given the status of being the only non-NATO allied member south of Sahara and the fourth in Africa, Mr. Speaker. This is not a mean achievement. Mr. Speaker, this comes with pride and prestige. And therefore, the individuals who are appointed to this position, first of all, must be educationally qualified, must be individually spirited and ready to represent Kenya in all aspects, in all their international assignments. And therefore, the question is, Mr. Speaker, and this is why I agree with the chairman of Defense and Foreign Relations, before individuals are assigned or nominated to these positions, there must be some engagement so that the presidential appointments are very lucrative and very appointment, so that individuals don't turn down these offers at the last minute. And therefore, in future, and I agree with the chairman, before some of these individuals are nominated or assigned, they must have some informal interaction. And this is what the chairman actually has alluded to, Mr. Speaker. And this is the right thing to do, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know you are a product of this. Mr. Speaker, this being the case, these appointments are coming at a time when the global village, when Kenya is being challenged economically, politically. There are so many issues that these diplomats have to be prepared. And I want to agree with what Honorable Sunkuli has said. Linguistic reference, preparedness is very important. When you are assigned, you are an intelligence officer, you are an economic representative, you are political. Therefore, knowing the language of that community where you are expected to serve is a very important thing. And therefore, I want to ask the chairman defense and the other member, in future, there must be some linguistic preparedness for some of these individuals. So if you are posted to a Portuguese-speaking country, you must have the basics. If you are going to be posted to China, you must also have the basics. Otherwise, you will waste your first 2 years in getting ready, and that will be a waste. And by then, the times have changed. Your tour of duty has almost come to an end, and you will have done nothing. And I think that's a very important suggestion. Not that we are not happy with the appointing authority, but it's a way to assist so that the individual becomes productive as soon as you take that particular role. Mr. Speaker, this being the case, today the world is going through a serious crisis. The Middle East crisis, the Ukraine and the Russian crisis, Mr. Speaker, and the change of regime in the US, Mr. Speaker, this is the high time that Kenyans who are appointed to these positions must be individuals who can meet the test of time, individuals who are prepared, individuals who have the skills, individuals who have the interests of this country at heart, and individuals who are willing to go out of their way to promote this premier nation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the past, you are aware, some of these postings used to be a dumping ground. You fail in all other things. And Mr. Speaker, I want to attest to one thing, that parliamentarians or politicians remain the best all-round ambassadors this country has ever had. And you are witness, you know it. Because the fact that you are a politician doesn't mean, and I want to agree, I want to disagree with those who said some of these individuals, like Ababu Namwamba and many others, who have been politicians, and I can tell you will remain the best ambassadors this country has ever had. So let's support our colleagues. To be a former politician is not a curse. To be a former minister is not a curse. But you must be prepared for the job. That's why consultation is also very important. And Mr. Speaker, I know you are also a seasoned product of this particular ministry. One of the things that we should be encouraging, Mr. Speaker, is because we have opened so many missions. Are these missions contributing to the economic well-being of the Republic of Kenya, or they have just expanded our political engagement? As chairman and colleagues, as the former chair of this committee, is one of the things that you need to go around and find out what is their economic contribution of some of these missions that we have opened. If it is through political persuasion, I think you need to close them as soon as possible. If they are adding well-being, if they are going to add value to the economic growth, to the economic well-being, then we need to open, we need to look everywhere, east, west, north, south, and that's our diplomatic engagement. And that's one of the things that proudly we have entrenched over the years. And finally, Mr. Speaker, this appointment comes at a time also when some of the role, there's a lot of debate in Mr. Speaker. The debate is, what is going to be the position of Kenya? Are we going to join the League of Developing Nations, or are we going to be competing with ourselves? Over the years, we have been competing with ourselves. Today, Mr. Speaker, you are witness. Just reflect on the GDP of Ethiopia. It's almost twice that of Kenya. Few years ago, Ethiopia was a struggling economy. Mr. Speaker, look at Uganda. Few years ago, Uganda was dependent on Kenya. Today, they are not our favorite trading partner. Look at Tanzania. What happens to Kenya? We have all become, we have all reduced ourselves to an inward-looking nation. An internal debate that will not put food, water, and other amenities on the table. We need to think outside. What happens outside? We need to create opportunities, because many youths in the field are either unemployed or underemployed. And many are in the field and they're looking upon this leadership here to give them opportunities. These opportunities will not come if we become a state that politics from morning to evening, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with this, I want to urge my colleagues to support this, and I also want to urge the President to appoint more politicians to these very important diplomatic engagements. I support this appointment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The 1 hour is over. Mover.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, honorable colleagues, for your contribution. They're very enriching. If you noticed, Honorable Speaker, I did not interrupt most of the comments from honorable members, because it makes our committee even more better, enriching us with thoughts that we will reflect with the product that we'll be bringing to the House even in future. And I want to thank my committee, able committee, for their contribution. It was on recess when we did this, and Honorable Speaker, we had an almost 99% presence of members. I want to appreciate our committee, parliamentary staff, the entire secretariat that worked with us for this report. Honorable Speaker, without much ado, I beg to reply. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members on their feet, take your seats. Take your seats, Wamurada. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 10, which is that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations in its report on the vetting of the nominees for appointment as ambassador, permanent representative, and consul general, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 16th January 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 132(2)(e) of the Constitution, Section 22 of the Foreign Services Act, Cap 185(e), and Sections 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, Cap 7F, this House approves the appointment of the following persons as indicated: Dr. Andrew Karanja, Ambassador, Brasilia, Brazil; Honorable Ababu Namwamba, EGH, Permanent Representative of Kenya to the United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, United Nations Office at Nairobi, UNON; and Mr. Nur Yaro Gabo, CBS, as Consul General, Port-au-Prince, Haiti. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 11, special motion, consideration of nominees for appointment to the Public Service Commission.
Karemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move the following special motion, that taking into consideration of the findings of the Departmental Committee on Labor in its report on the approval hearings of nominees for appointment as Vice Chairperson and as members of the Public Service Commission, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 16th January 2025, and pursuant to Article 233 subsection 2 and section 3 and section 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, Cap 7F. This House approves the appointment of A. Mrs. Mary Wanjera Kimonye, CBS, as the Vice Chairperson of the Public Service Commission. B. The following nominees as members of the Public Service Commission. 1. Mr. Harun Malim Hassan, PW, PWD, EBS. 2. Ms. Monamaka Amani Mabruki, CBS. 3. Mr. Francis Major. 4. Dr. Irene Cherotich Asienga, OGW. 5. Mr. Mboya Molu, EBS. 6. Ms. Joan Andisi Machayo, OGW. And lastly, number 7, Dr. Francis Otieno Owino, CBS. So, Honorable Speaker, I wish to confirm to this House, and as I tabled the report earlier today, that the committee sat down earlier this week, that is on the 9th, and conducted the vetting exercise. And we made our observations on the suitability of the nominees. And I wish to confirm to this House that, Honorable Speaker, that the nominees are suitable for the positions, the Vice Chair of the Public Service Commission, and also the members. All the nominees are Kenyan citizens and do not hold dual citizenship. Then also, the nominees presented their academic credentials and professional certificates during the approval hearings, and I wish to confirm to the honorable members here that they are adequately well educated. The committee noted that. Then also, none of the nominees holds any office in any political party. Honorable Speaker, we were able to ascertain that none of the nominees holds a political party office or even contested for any position. Then also the nominees, none of the nominees had been dismissed from office under Article 75 of the Constitution. Then also, Honorable Speaker, the nominees met the requirements of Chapter 6 of the Constitution on leadership and integrity, having obtained clearance from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, the KRA, the DCI, and the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, ORPP, and also the institution of the Higher Education Laws Board. Honorable Speaker, the nominees demonstrated an impressive grasp of topical, administrative, and technical issues touching on the office of the Vice Chairperson and members of the Public Service Commission. Honorable Speaker, it is good to note that majority of these nominees are people who have served previously in government and they have a wide experience. The nominee for the Vice Chair has been a PS and has served in government for many years. And we were able to establish that she has a lot of experience in public service. Then also all the members, some of them have actually been PSs before. A person who has been a PS before, Honorable Speaker, is a person who has adequate knowledge on how government works. And Honorable Speaker, even as we discuss these nominees, it's good to say that the committee was also able to establish that they understand, or there are people who understand the challenges of the Public Service Commission, and we believe that they will be able to deal with the current and also the future challenges of the Public Service Commission, and make sure that the Public Service Commission is a commission that is desired across the country, or Kenyans will be proud of the Public Service Commission like other places in the world. So, Honorable Speaker, in the view of the above, on behalf of the Departmental Committee on Labor, I am happy to move this special motion on the consideration of the nominees for appointment as Vice Chairperson and members of the Public Service Commission. I beg to move and now request the Honorable Leah Sankaire to second.
Leah, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support this report from the Committee on Labor, which I'm also a member. Mr. Speaker, the members vetted displayed exemplary skills in public service, and they had very vast knowledge in public service. Mr. Speaker, most of them, as my chair said, having served in various positions in this Republic of Kenya in different portfolios, including the PSS, Mr. Speaker, previously are well conversant with various challenges in the public service, and they also gave proposals on how to solve the issues. And Mr. Speaker, we were happy with the vast knowledge that they have in the public service. Mr. Speaker, we have no doubt that upon their appointment, they will improve the service delivery and restore public trust to the public service. Mr. Speaker, I'm particularly drawn to one member, Mr. Francis Major, who hails from Kajiado County. Having worked before as a director in NTSA, he displayed exemplary leadership skills there and automated most of the systems there, which we actually enjoy today as Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, all the nominees were actually people with vast knowledge, and we are certain that they will transform the leadership. They will transform the service delivery in public service. Mr. Speaker, with this, I beg to support the report, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Members on their feet, take your seats. Honorable members, I now propose the question at order number 11, which is that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Labor and in its report on the vetting of nominees for appointment as Vice Chairperson and as members of the Public Service Commission, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 16th January 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 2332 of the Constitution and Section 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, Cap 7F, this House approves the appointment of the following persons to the Public Service Commission. Mrs. Mary Wanjira Kimonye, CBS Vice Chairperson, Mr. Harun Malim Hassan, Member, Ms. Mwanamaka Amani Mabruki, CBS Member, Mr. Francis Major, Member, Dr. Irene Cherotich Asiega, Member, Mr. Boya Molu, EBS Member, Ms. Joan Andisi Machayo, Member, and Dr. Francis Otieno Owino, CBS Member. Is it the mood that we put the question? Yes. Yes, Yusuf, you don't want to agree with the rest of the members? Let me put the question on the proposal. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I stand to support the report of the committee. I think this is one of the most diverse commission that the Public Service Commission has ever had. From the national cohesion and equal opportunity point of view, you see someone from Northeastern, my constituency, is the first time in the history of Kenya represented in this commission. You see someone from Upper Eastern, you see from Rift Valley, you see from Nyanza, which means that this is a well mixed And this is the commission that looks at the public service employment and recruitment, and then we expect the outcomes will be quite different what used to be. Last year, my committee, National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity, we audited the Public Service Commission. And we looked at the previous recruitments, and the issue was very pathetic. There was too much leaning to some parts of this country, while others were not actually represented. So by having well representatives of the commission, we expect in future the products of this will be the same. Marginalized people have been considered, minority communities have been considered, gender has been considered, and in particular, Harun Malim Hassan, who is a disabled, permanently disabled person, who hails from my constituency, and who from childhood has been very...
Order, Yusuf. Yes, a member for Bumula.
Whereas have no personal issue with anybody on that list, is the member in order to say, to mislead the House that the list reflects diversity when we have a chairman and vice chairman coming from the same region? Honorable Speaker, is the member in order to mislead Mushiri and Wanjiru, Kimonye, to be specific? Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is no chair on this list which we are discussing today. So I'm talking of those commissioners which have just been named here, the ones to be a commissioner soon. So no chair is here, and therefore I don't know who the chair is. And the ones I'm looking at are well representatives of this country. As I was saying, that I sincerely thank the appointing authorities for once having considered somebody from Mandera West as a commissioner of public service commission. Yeah?
You've made your point, you are repeating yourself.
Thank you, thank you. With these remarks, I support the committee's findings. Thank you so much.
Zamzam. And you are not supporting the findings of the committee, you are supporting the motion before the House.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi niweze kuunga mkono hawa walioteuliwa Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwanza nikiweza kumpongeza dada yetu mwanamwaka Amani Mabruk ambaye anatoka katika jimbo la Mombasa. Ni mwanamke ambaye ni msomi, mpole, mchapakazi ambaye ameweza kuhudumia public service miaka mingi na ni mtu ambaye tunamwamini. Mimi nataka kuambia wote walioteuliwa Mheshimiwa Spika kuwa waweze kuhudumia jamii bila kuwa na upendeleo Mheshimiwa Spika. Nikimwangalia huyu Harun Maalim amekuwa ni mtetezi sana wa watu wanaoishi na ulemavu, na nina imani nafasi hii ambayo amepewa Mheshimiwa Spika itamwezesha kuweza kuhudumia walemavu kwa njia ambayo ni sawa Mheshimiwa Spika. Sijui mambo ya vice chairman na chair wake, lakini kama ni kweli Mheshimiwa Spika, japokuwa majina hayako hapa, ingekuwa vizuri kama naibu wake angekuwa anatoka sehemu nyingine ili tuweze kuchanganya, lakini hata hivyo yule ambaye anaweza kupewa kazi Mheshimiwa Spika apewe kazi, afanyie Wakenya wote kazi. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to be very brief and I rise to support the motion. And Mr. Speaker, the executive errors in many times by bringing bad appointees. In this case, regional diversity can be seen. I want to single out the Honorable Mr. Francis Major, who hails from Kajiado, former Registrar of Motor Vehicle, former CEO and MD for National Transport and Safety Authority, a gentleman who has served very well. And I think for the Honorable Ichongwa and the Honorable Soro, now on this one, I think you can sing the song Kasongo. It now sails better in this one. With those many remarks, I wish to support the motion before the floor, and you can sing Kasongo Nebali Nangai.
Yes,
Honorable Speaker, I rise to seek clarity from the Honorable Gogoyo on the relevance of the Sonka Songo in regard to the appointment and the motion that is before the House, Honorable Speaker.
it's out of order as being cheeky and irrelevant. Go on, Makale Mulu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me also join my colleagues and support this motion. But as I support this motion, Honorable Speaker, just want to make about 3 observations. The first, Honorable Speaker, is that the public service in this country is facing quite a number of challenges. And I wish that this new commission will be able to address those challenges, and more so, the challenge of succession. We have a situation where we have a very elderly people and we have very young people, but in between, Honorable Speaker, there is a gap. This matter has been discussed for quite some time, and I think really as a country, we need to make sure that this one, we get it right for purposes of effective public service. The second matter, Honorable Speaker, is the matter which I raised the other time we were discussing the 2 commissions, IPOA and the other commission. Honorable Speaker, as a house, our work is oversight. And I see some of our colleagues getting very excited when they see people coming from their regions being in the list. But I think as a house, Honorable Speaker, it is important that we look at the totality of these commissions. I don't know how that can be done, because I don't know whether at the point of the committee level, we ask ourselves, who else is in which committee or in which commission? So how I wish, Honorable Speaker, as a house, we could be able to get the listing of the constitutional commissions and who is currently sitting in those commissions. That will help this country in terms of ensuring that there's regional balancing. Because like I think our members raised a very important point of order, Honorable Speaker. In a situation where you have a commission, a high-ranking commission like Public Service Commission, which is almost equivalent like the one you chair, Honorable Speaker, the Parliamentary Service Commission, and you have a chair and a vice chair coming from the same region, Honorable Speaker, I don't think Kenya is short of professionals who can sit on these some things. So the issue of balancing and also for effective management, so that Kenyans don't appear like some sections have been left out and others are in, Honorable Speaker. I think as a house, we need to start paying a bit of attention to these details because it will help the process. The last point, Honorable Speaker, is the Public Service Commission is also, I think it's supposed to be taking care of capacity building. Honorable Speaker, a number of these senior public servants, I think as a house, we need to think about supporting them with a budget to build their capacity building. Some of them have been in employment for so long, they never get a chance to be trained to upgrade their skills. And the challenge has always been, the Speaker, been, anytime we want to reduce the budget, we talk about training budget being a recurrent budget, and it's always been removed from the budgets. So at the end of the day, you are very well-trained officers, but they are not getting upgrading training short courses to upgrade their skills. So that's another area as a house. We need to make sure that when we are reducing the budgets, because at the end of the day, Honorable Speaker, we will reduce the budget, that we don't really reduce the budget for training, because this is how you get to improve the skills of these public servants. With those remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support.
Russell.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I really want to be brief. First of all, the Public Service Commission is almost the principal commission, constitutional commission, that employs. When we say that the civil service is actually lopsided, it's because Public Service Commission is not doing a good job. Secondly, it is about promotion. In most of the senior cadres, you must appear before the Public Service Commission to get a particular appointment in government. Thirdly, it is about the face of this country. If you don't have somebody in the Public Service Commission, the chances of you getting to a position that you desire is actually very rare, and sometimes it's like walking in the desert. Honorable Speaker, I want to say this as a parting shot. Once this commission is in place,
they must visit all parts of this country and get views in terms of what is the representation, why are certain communities not in government. With those few remarks, I say, Honorable Speaker, thank you very much.
Daud? Yes. Hold Daud. Yes, Honorable Chepkonga.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I see that we have unanimity in terms of the approval. Would I be in order, under the standing orders, Mr. Speaker, that the mover be called to reply or the question be put? Mr. Speaker, you know we have just come out of our recess. And Mr. Speaker, I think it would only be fair that the question be, because we are all in agreement. There's nobody who is opposed. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I had already given Daud. Let me have him.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll be brief as well. Mr. Speaker, I want to support the motion. The Vice Chair, Mrs. Mary Kimonye, is my neighbor, and I know she's worked in the public service for many, many years, and she's capable of that. What I want to disabuse the notion by Honorable Wamboka that she comes from the same region with the chair, whereas the chair comes in region. So it's not the same region. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I want to support the nomination of Major, who was the NTSA DG, together with Mr. Bolu, who has got a vast experience. Mr. Speaker, I just want to ask the new commissioners to put into place my bill, which I brought to this House, which has been passed, Values and Principles of Public Service, to actualize it, what Honorable Raso has talked about. And if they can do that, then they will have done a lot of good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support.
Owen Baya. We'll give two
Thank you,
more.
Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just want to congratulate the members that have been nominated. I also congratulate the committee for a good job, but also to say that I want to thank the President, the appointing authority, for looking at gender. You can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 members of the ladies in this commission. I think that is very good in promoting gender in this country. But also to thank the President for actually giving us a lady from the coast that will stand in the public service. But I also want to say that public service is the engine of government. So they have a duty to ensure efficiency and effectiveness in management of government if they do a good job. If they don't do a good job in terms of recruitment, then they will fail the country. So I want to tell them that they have their cloth cut for them. They need to do a good job so that public service in this country can take off and be that efficient public service that can be respected in the world. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Members, can we call the mover to reply? I put the question that the mover be called upon to reply. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Those with a contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Karemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I wish to thank the honorable members who have added their voices to this motion and in support of it. Indeed, the committee did its work, and I also wish to thank the honorable members who sat together with me to vet these nominees. Honorable Speaker, I also wish to wish the incoming commissioners and the vice chair all the best as they execute their duties as the new commissioners of the Public Service Commission, and hope that they will take this country forward in the spaces that they will be occupying. Honorable Speaker, I am also drawn, my attention is also drawn, like that of Honorable Dawood, to the sentiments made by one Honorable Amboka. You know, for those of us who come from Eastern region, we always don't like it, Honorable Speaker, when we are referred to as people coming from one region. The vice chair comes from the county of Meru, whereas Meru and...
Honorable Karemba, you are the chair of the committee. If you now want to delve into the rigmarole of sectarian politics,
Honorable Speaker, I'm not trying to move into that space. I'm only trying to insinuated
The
that.
good lawyer next to you should advise you.
All right. All right. So, Honorable Speaker, I wish to thank all the members who have added their voices to this motion, and I beg to reply, Honorable Speaker.
That is better. Don't be tempted to draw yourself into sectarian politics. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 11, which is that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Labor in its report on the vetting of nominees for appointment as vice chairperson and as members of the Public Service Commission laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 16th January 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 2332 of the Constitution and Section 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act Cap 7F, this House approves the appointment of the following persons to the Public Service Commission. Mrs. Mary Wanjira Kimonye, CBS, Vice Chairperson. Mr. Harun Maalim Hassan, Member. Ms. Mwanamaka Amani Mabruki, CBS, Member. Mr. Francis Major, Member. Dr. Irene Cherotich Asiega, Member. Mr. Boya Molu, EBS, Member. Ms. Joan Andisi Machayo, Member. And Dr. Francis Otieno Owino, CBS, Member. As members of that opinion say aye. Order Whip and Bashir. You cannot be engaging on the floor when the speaker is on his feet. If you stood there and froze, it would have been, but you are chatting away with the good lady from Aldai. Yes, you must maintain studious silence. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Dr. Nyikal, can you check what Honorable Kajong has been consuming for lunch? Next order.
Order number 12, special motion, consideration of nominees for appointment as cabinet secretaries.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you know Dr. Nyikal is a very good medical doctor, and therefore you are very right. He could check what, if there is any problem with the Honorable TJ Kajwang, who we cannot afford to be in this house without. So Dr. Nyikal must ensure he's okay. Honorable Speaker, allow me to move that taking into consideration the findings of the Committee on Appointments in its fourth report on the vetting of the nominees for appointment as cabinet secretaries laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 16 January, 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Articles 152(2) of the Constitution and Sections 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act Cap 7F. This House approves the appointment of the following persons as cabinet secretaries. 1, the Honorable Mutahi Kagwe EGH as a minister or the cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. 2, the Honorable William Kabogo as the cabinet secretary in charge of Information Communications and Digital Economy Ministry. And 3, the Honorable Lee Kinyanjui as the cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry. Honorable Speaker, allow me to take this opportunity first to thank you as the chair of the Appointments Committee and all the 20 members of the Parliamentary Appointments Committee who took their time, Honorable Speaker, during the recess to come and vet these 3 cabinet nominees, even as I thank all the members of this House who have heeded to the call for a special sitting today to approve the motions that we've just approved, that of SRC, the Public Service Commission, the ambassadors who are being designated to serve our country in different destinations around the world. And lastly, this motion, Honorable Speaker, to approve these 3 cabinet secretaries to serve in those three ministries, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, having and Kenyans watched as we vetted these three cabinet nominees. And these nominees, Honorable Speaker, are not new in the public service. The Honorable Mutahi Kagwe has been a minister right from the Kibaki time when he served as minister for 2 years as minister for ICT, or what was then the Ministry of Communications and Information and Communication, Honorable Speaker. He then served as Minister for Health at a very challenging time during the COVID outbreak, Honorable Speaker. And many Kenyans will remember the Honorable Mutahi Kagwe as a COVID-era minister. And he cut his niche, especially with his very good communication skills, always updating the country on the status of the pandemic in the country, Honorable Speaker. And I remember my own daughter, who was then only 2 years old, whenever he saw either CS Mutahi Kagwe or the then CAS, Dr. Mwangangi, Masi Mwangangi, she would tell me COVID. And in my house, Mutahi Kagwe was Christian, the COVID minister. But he did a splendid job during that time, Honorable Speaker, and I'm glad that some of the issues that bedeviled his term, part of it being the COVID billionaire scandal, he was able to be confronted with those questions during the vetting process and adequately or sufficiently answered all the issues that pertained to that time, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm saying this because all the other nominees, the Honorable William Kabogo Getao is the first governor of Kiambu County, Honorable Speaker. The Honorable Lee Kinyanjui is the second governor of Nakuru County. Honorable Speaker, as much as these two gentlemen never made it back to serve their second terms, during their terms as governors, there are things you could see both in Kiambu County, where I come from, and I say this, Honorable Speaker, knowing that I had run-ins with the Honorable Kabogo when he was governor for Kiambu. And it was nothing ever personal, it was all in the course of business in politics, Honorable Speaker. But I can say today, so far, of all the governors who have served the county of Kiambu in terms of performance, William Getao Kabogo ranks #1 in terms of performance. Second is Governor Nyoro. Of course, the current governor and Governor Waitito, I can't even begin to rank them, Honorable Speaker. The Honorable Lee Kinyanjui, Honorable Speaker, midwifed. I don't know who that is. The Honorable Lee Kinyanjui, Lee Mayan Kinyanjui.
Yes, Janet. What's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker.
Give him the mic.
Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the majority leader to become a pollster and say that to mislead the House that Governor Kabogo was the best, when he knows that there is a sitting governor here in the county now who's serving the county called Governor Wamatangi? And when I asked him about him, he told me, I don't know that one. Mr. Speaker, when did that change? And has Mr. Wamatangi left being the governor of Kiambu, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, let's be fair. Mr. Kabogo might have done a good job, but Mr. Wamatangi, can you tell us something about Mr. Wamatangi?
Honorable Speaker, I hear my leader of minority, and Honorable Speaker, you know, I am speaking about the nominees in this list. And there are two governors, Governor Kabogo and Governor Lee Mayani Kinyanjui. And therefore, I also said, having knowledge and being a constituent in Kiambu County, I am capable of ranking, not as a pollster, the performance in terms of output and actual performance on delivery of services to the people of Kiambu County. And Governor Getao Kabogo William ranks #1 so far. Governor Wamatangi has time, he's the current governor. He is now competing with Governor Waitito in terms of who will perform better. But so far, Governor Kabogo and Governor Nyoro have done exceptionally well. Honorable Speaker, and you can ask anybody from Kiambu County, they will vindicate me. I'll stand vindicated by the people of Kiambu. The people of Nakuru County also vindicate me when I say, Honorable Speaker, and Kenyans know that Governor Lee Kinyanjui midwifed the ascension of Nakuru County from a municipality into the city that Nakuru County is today. And these are not people, as I said, Honorable Speaker, and who are new to public service. They are seasoned politicians, seasoned public officers, and I want to pray and hope that when they take over their offices, whether it is Mutahi Kagwe in the Ministry of Agriculture, whether it is Lee Kinyanjui in the Ministry of Trade and Industry, whether it is Gitau Kabogo in the Ministry of ICT, Honorable Speaker, that they will serve all the people of this country with the dedication and commitment that we have seen them serve in the various other capacities that they have served the nation in, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there are challenges, both in ICT, Honorable Speaker, with the rollout of the fiber optic cable and ensuring what the Honorable Pukose said during the vetting process, to ensure that the far-flung corners and districts of our country are also connected to the internet, Honorable Speaker. And Governor Kabogo, or now CS nominee Kabogo, if approved by this House, has that challenge to ensure that every corner of this country, Honorable Speaker, has internet accessibility, not just to ensure that people are getting government services through e-citizen, Honorable Speaker, but also to ensure that Kenyans who are telling that you can finya computer upate dollar can able to work online from any corner of this country. You do not need to be in an urban area to be able to access internet services, Honorable Speaker, but even those in Elwak, those in Karachuonyo, those in far-flung corners of Turkana County, Honorable Speaker, can also be able to access internet services. And I am happy during the vetting process, Governor Kabogo was able to articulate that in those far-flung areas where they cannot be able to get accessibility through the fiber optic cable, he will explore new technology like the Starlink technology that is there to ensure that people are able to access internet connectivity and jobs, Honorable Speaker, and also create some sanity within the digital space, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Mutahi Kagwe has his work cut out, Honorable Speaker, and I'm happy that during the vetting process, he was able to very well articulate the challenges that bedevil our agricultural sector, the connectivity between productivity in the agricultural sector, access to markets, and making agriculture profitable to farmers. And Honorable Speaker, I am glad that he was able to articulate how he will work and be able to make agriculture profitable, ensure that our country is food secure, and ensure that our farmers access markets, not just for their tea, coffee, milk, pyrethrum, even potato farmers or sugarcane farmers, Honorable Speaker, that are able to access markets and access good prices for their produce, Honorable Speaker. I pray, as I challenge the Honorable Mutahi Kagwe during the vetting, that he will not be swallowed by the cartels that have swallowed